Oh, hi. Hi. I'm coming. Is 2 o'clock. Okay, let me see. Hi. Hi. I know, you would think that I would have this already, right? But I don't. Hello. I just first want to say hello and thank you to everybody. Thank you for showing up. It's been a rough. Okay, hi. Let me see if I can get our. Ah, hopefully this gets better and better. Okay, I sent the invitation. Wait a minute, is it happening for real? I think it is.
Of course it is.
Wait, what are we looking at? You on? I
Oh,
see your computer.
hang on.
Switch
There we
it
go.
around.
Yep.
Hi.
Hi.
All right. Before we begin, I have so much to say. I know
All
this is your,
good.
I know this is your first time, so I'll be gentle.
I'm a boxer, remember? I like it rough.
We're gonna get to the rough stuff. We're gonna get to the fact. Yesterday we had the bondage class in
Mm-hmm.
Jersey, and it was so good. And I just want to let the community know, thank you so much for coming out to New Jersey to get tied up. It was a really great class. Our next class is happening, our workshop is happening in March 9th. We're doing a fisting class, so that should be fun. Last night I was coming home from Jersey and I was like, I just want to be away from people. Somebody said, oh, you want to smoke a cigar? And I was like, I don't have any cigars. Then bam, this femme just whip out a cigar. Hey, I was like, I wanted to do nasty things to her, but we were in the train station, so I couldn't do that. We're going to have a fantastic conversation with Doc. Anyone who doesn't know Doc, you're a Cancer, right?
No, I'm actually half Leo and half Virgo.
Oh, God. Okay, that's fantastic. I was going to say, if anybody knows Doc, Doc has no problem giving to community and bigging up where big ups need to be said, and also to put you in your place if you need to be put in your place. I also wanted to mention that in 2011, Doc was part of the advertisement of Test Fest. Remember way back then?
Oh my God, yes.
I still have this little thing here because I like archiving things. People need to know that at one time it was very difficult to get people to come to Test Fest or to come to Test, especially LGBTQ people, and then people of color or Black and brown people. And so Lady Sabrina talked Doc and a few others to be the face or advertise that Black people do attend tests when we beg them to come. I wanted to show this because I was like, I have this. This is really nice. Test Fest 2011 in Piscataway. That's Doc. If you don't know, Doc also has 2 books, which I have.
All right.
See, I have 2 books that Doc wrote. I would suggest that you don't read this on the train because there are pictures. We're going to talk about this. But first, is there anything, and also I'm wearing my Onyx shirt, and
All right.
it's in a big time.
Work it out.
And I'm wearing my gave me, my Storm pin. so
Oh.
long ago. Yes. So with that being said, could you tell us all the things about you? I know people read your introduction because I put it on the thing. Just start talking and then we're going to just play it by ear. I have so many questions.
Okay. I guess where I would start is a 13-year-old boy walking through Penn Station in downtown New York, and I walked past a newsstand, and I saw a picture of marvelous Marvin Hagler, God rest his soul, on the cover of World Boxing magazine, and he was shirtless, just muscular frame, wearing a pair of boxing gloves, and something about that image, it caught my eye and stopped me dead in my tracks. In hindsight, I realize what it was doing to me, but at the time, I just knew that it had me mesmerized. I felt like I couldn't move, and I studied every image. I finally built up the courage to walk away, only to come back a couple of minutes later and continue staring at the picture. And I think I must have done this for about 5 or 6 times over a course of 45 minutes. I know, crazy, right? Then after playing a few video games in an arcade, I'm telling my age, I came back, I bought that magazine, and then I took it home, allowed it to fester within me, and therein began the beginning of my agonophilia. For those of you who would wonder what my particular kink is, which is basically someone who is preoccupied with the act of boxing and all the gear that surrounds it. You have to look that up in the Urban Dictionary. I'm not sure if it's in Webster's. And then from there, I tried to search and find out what was going on. To my dismay, there was nothing. You talk about a desert of information, nothing, absolutely nothing. I think maybe 4 or 5 years later, I was reading a Forum magazine because my stepfather came into my life at the age of 8 with 10,000 porno magazines. But that's a whole other story. Remember reading an article about a woman who was turned on by her boyfriend fighting. And that was about the closest thing. And I'm just like, I understand, but not really. That's not me. Mm-hmm. So it was many years later, after I came out to myself, that I decided to delve into this. I needed to understand what this was that drove me. Why did I enjoy watching 2 half-naked men pound and beat on each other and eventually with one knocking the other out? What was this particular kink? I found a website called Vanguard. It's no longer around. And I really thought I had found home because I found other men who were into this kink. There were a lot of wrestlers, but there were some boxers there who were into this particular kink. And it was just like, it was like something from heaven. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel alone. I was delving into finding this out about my particular kink. I read stories. They had a forum section and things like that. And the forums I thought were pretty cool because people were telling me stories of what they envisioned their particular boxing scenario would end up with, which sparked something in me. And I was just like, hey, I want to write some of these stories too, because most of the protagonists on there were white males. And I was just like, in a sport dominated by Black and Latino men, why is it only the Caucasian men had stories? So I was like, I want to do this. At the same time that I discovered that website, I started taking boxing lessons and looking into a leather kink organization because I felt that who better to tell me about this kind of thing than a leather organization? And that would be the first unofficial chapter of Onyx down in the southeast of Atlanta. Right. So that's a little known fact. I am a native New Yorker, but I was down south when I first joined Onyx. Eventually, I got the call to move to New York. I got homesick, moved back to New York, and then got the call to say, hey, we want you to start a chapter. So getting back to the main story, I was taking up boxing, and then I had these ideas to write these stories. And having taken the actual lessons, I knew the ins and outs and the particular maneuvers and things like that. I started to write some stories. And I didn't get the reaction that I was looking for. And I would complain to a couple of my friends, and my friends were like, look at the audience that you're writing for. So you're the foreigner, you're the new guy. You're not the one they expected to see in there. And I was like, you know what, you're right. So I took down most of my stories and eventually moved back to New York and published my first book, which you have a copy of.
This one?
Yes.
This is the first one,
That's
right?
the first one. Also, a little known fact, I used to perform at Adobe Muse when they were down in Atlanta. And someone had asked me at one point, write your fantasy. So as a personal note for anyone out there who has a copy of the book, my personal fantasy is the second chapter in that book.
Oh, I got to read it again. Man, because I haven't read this in a long time because I have both copies. And these are the pictures I was saying. The first one has illustrations. I like these illustrations. And this is one of the tamed ones. There's some illustrations in here that you're going to be like, whoops, which is really good. I want to ask you, because not only are you an author, a founding father of Onyx, the brothers, Onyx, New York Northeast, you are also a title holder.
That is correct, yes.
And let me first say, if anybody has questions, there is a question mark and a little box, like a thought box. If you have questions, throw your questions in there. If you like what you're hearing, you can give some thumbs up. You can give a heart. Sometimes you can say, Raven, shut the fuck up. You're talking too much. That's fine too. My ego is fine. But I started really doing the series about in conversation with people in the community. BLX is about Black and brown people, right? So yeah. I started doing these kinds of conversations because some people were running for titles, and I would say, oh, why'd you run? And they'd be like, I went to Imsel and I saw that it was a title, or I'm just doing it for clout. And I was dismayed a little bit after having some conversations. I got so angry, I did a whole video on BLX's YouTube channel about titles and title holders, and the things that I learned when I came out in the community, and by talking to title holders. So I want to ask you, why did you decide to run for your title, and which titles, because I think you have 2 or 3 titles, did you decide to run for? And
so my first title that I have is the Leatherman of Color. I was the 3rd winner. An interesting little fact, I ended up running twice before I won it or was appointed. Honestly, it's not about the person. A person running for a title can make it about themselves, but it's not really about you. The title itself is about representation. A person will go unnamed. He was the one that got me to run for the title the first couple of times, but I knew nothing really about titles. I'll tell you an interesting story. I went to IML back in 2001, and I remember volunteering, and I went to the show at the end of the show. I was like, oh, my God, those guys are gods. I could never see myself running for a title. 6 years later, I ran for the title the first year, and honestly, I didn't even know what I was doing. Everything was spur of the moment. So the 3rd year, I had determined to myself, I'm not running for this title anymore. Stop putting me up here, da-da-da. And then they gave me the title. They appointed me to me. And in talks with Daddy Richard, who is a fellow founder of Onyx, New York, Northeast, he pointed out to me that it's not technically about me, it's about representation. And he said, how many people can see themselves, or how many young Black men, or even men of color, can see themselves running for a title? So I realized what my purpose was, and I took it very seriously. Interesting fact is that a lot of individuals thought I was just a pretty face. They thought, oh, yeah, he looks cute, he looks nice in gear. They're just going to stick him up there, but they thought I was basically an airhead. Sorry, y'all, but I was one of them educated Negroes. I worked with Daddy Richard, who is an icon in the community, and I studied and I trained hard, and I learned everything that I needed to learn so that I could put on a good performance when I got out there, so I could represent. Again, whether I won the title or not, it was just about being seen. And I'll be honest with you, even to this day, that was 18 years ago, there are still people coming up to me who said, well, you're one of the reasons why I joined the leather community, because I saw you in leather, I saw you winning that title, and I felt that could be me. That could be me. It just warms me right to my core. Wow, my God. And that's also why I try to, for anyone who does see pictures of me, I try to put positive images out there of Black men in leather to know that we're not a fetish. We're not just a sex interest. We are individuals. We can make a difference.
Daddy Richard is what Lady Sabrina is to me. Lady Sabrina, you have to keep going. You have to put yourself out there, because if a Black person comes in and doesn't see another Black person, they'll think this isn't for them. They'll think that they're not welcome. And I'm always like, Lady Sabrina, please. But here I am, putting myself out there continuously, doing that. With being a title holder, with great power comes great responsibility. And you talked about that, but then you also went on and decided to form, or was asked to form, Onyx.
Yes. That was before the title. So that was 2003. I had moved back to New York in beginning of 2003. I think I got the call probably like 3 or 4 months later to get in charge. New York had formed in 2005, and then I went in 2006 to our blackout event, our yearly reunion. That's when they appointed me the title, and I ran while being president. For any future chapter presidents or future chapter officers, you can be an officer as well as run for a title.
What kinds of things did you do during your title year?
I competed in several tournaments as well as visit multiple other chapters and other locations, just representing and letting people know, hey, you can do this too. You don't have to be a pretty face or whatever. If you have something important to say, if you want to be a leader, or if you have a message that you want to get out there in the community, you can step up. I've encouraged many brothers wherever I've gone. If you have a message to make, step up. There's always some younger version of you out there who needs to see represent. They need to see themselves, and who better than you to step up and represent and be that icon that will inspire others.
Exactly. Sometimes people think, and I think they still do, not as much as before, but maybe some people think that Onyx is a sex club.
No, we are not.
Exactly. This is just what I heard. I don't know.
There's lots of things out there, and I will tell you, when I was president, I get laid more if I join Onyx, and I'm like, that's a possibility, but it is not a guarantee. Right. Onyx is not a sex club. Again, it's the objectification of men of color, and that's not what we're about. I thank Onyx immensely for helping me to discover more about my kink, to further it, and learn more about other things, other people, and further my knowledge of being a kink person out there in the community and being that leader that others want to see. Yeah, like I said, it's a possibility, but it is not a guarantee.
And also the tagline for Onyx, it has nothing to do with sex.
No.
It has to do with educating. It has to do with exploring. You know what I'm saying? It has to do with those kinds of things. And you have to explore certain things in order to know, like you said, you looked at that magazine and was like, oh my God, what's going on? And then you found your way into a certain thing and found other people that could help you on that road of discovery.
Absolutely.
And now I think more than ever, back in the day when you were around, I'm not going to include myself in that. I know I'm a dinosaur as well. But back in the day when there wasn't a lot of Black people around as it is today, you can reach out or see. There's more Onyx chapters that are out here. And you can reach out to people and get information if you're willing to listen. But sometimes I hear things, and I wonder if you hear these things as well, as some generations saying, there are no elders, there's no elders, so yeah, we have to go to the internet and these kinds of things. And I get it, I'm not knocking the internet. But sometimes when I hear that, I think, well, did you step outside and look around to find someone? When I came out, I met you that we could latch on to and have a positive response or a vision of what we can do and have that support for each other. It's not always easy.
This is true. Well, we actually have a pledge class going on, and I was at the pledge class yesterday, and I was informing our new line. I understand the internet is out there. And don't get me wrong, the information is super highway. I said, but there's a lot of little things that you cannot learn. You cannot become an expert by watching a video. And when we talk about things like flogging, there's some people, okay, I want to be flogged, but I don't want you to leave marks. So you need to learn about the different oils that you can put on a person's skin, or just Black people in general, our skin, how to treat it, how to put some lotion on it, or specific types of oils that are not going to break the skin. You're not going to learn that in a video. In a video, they're doing this for entertainment to get you the wow factor, but you don't know what's going on before that whole scene started. It doesn't teach you the negotiation process. It doesn't teach you the safe words. It doesn't show any of that. You're watching a video thinking, oh, I know what I'm doing now. No, you don't. And you need to mentor under someone. There are a plethora of us out here in the community. Reach out and talk to someone. Open your mouth. Say something. You know what I'm saying? We are gay people. We talk. Okay? Whether we be as shady bitches or not, we talk. And we can give you the tea on who's good, who's not good, and you can find out for yourself who's a good person to mentor under. You know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong. There's some great masters out there. There's some great dominatrixes as well. So they might be assholes in real life, but they know their stuff. Right. So you have to determine, is this a person that you can learn from and tolerate? And these are things left over from the earlier generations, which is still the best way to learn.
It's interesting that you just said what you said. I recently told somebody, we were talking about somebody, and I said, well, that person's not my cup of tea. I think they're an ass, but I will never take away the fact that they know their shit. Like,
right.
They know their shit. Even with me, people may think, you're not my sip of whiskey, but you do know your shit. So I can't ever take that away from somebody. For people to say, I can't find anyone, is very interesting to me. I would appreciate more if a person said, I don't know how to vet somebody, right? Because vetting is different than, because you can find plenty of people, right? But how you vet them is a different story. So I could appreciate that kind of sentiment opposed to saying, I can't find anyone to mentor me or to have a conversation with, or just to sit down and have some tea or coffee and just have a conversation. Because everything does with a conversation.
Absolutely.
And like you said, we will talk.
And this is, as much as I love Daddy Richard, this is not Daddy Richard's day. When he would go out, it was the same 5 people at leather events. There is a mob of us out there, okay? You cannot go to a leather event without running into or touching someone from our community. So there's no excuses nowadays. None.
Right.
There's absolutely none.
Yeah, exactly. I always get teased. I was teased yesterday in the workshop. I was talking. We would have to do this introduction kind of a thing. And they were teasing me saying, oh, back in the, Survey was going to be like, back in the 90s, there were 5 black people in the scene. And there were 5 black people in the scene.
Right.
I'm so glad you're here. So now I have vindication. It was really difficult. And unlike today, and this is just me, sometimes black folks, we talk in a certain way, right? So I'm going to say, the other day at Folsom, there was like so many black people at Folsom. You know what I'm saying? I remember being at Folsom and it just being like the Onyx brothers table and another table, and then that was it.
Right.
And now it's crazy. You're absolutely right. You can't throw a whip without hitting somebody who is a black or brown person, which is a good thing. It is good.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about, I call myself a leather daddy, but I want to know what that means to you. Not the leather daddy part, being a boxer daddy.
Ah, okay. Here we go. This is the fun part.
I know you box, so I know that for sure. Because in the second book, the pictures are photographs. So in this book, they're like photographs. They're photographs of people.
I think you switched them. The first book had illustrations in it, and then I had to do live pictures for it. It's a long publishing issue.
That are in here? Really?
So the second book is a variety of stories, and then there's illustrations by a local artist by the name of Anthony Gonzalez. I got to give him all praise. Much love, Anthony.
You mean this picture? I won this at an auction at Leather Pride Night.
Oh.
Remember?
Yes, I do. Ooh, okay, you're taking us back now.
I won this and I've had it ever since. It's Anthony Gonzalez.
Yes. He's a phenomenal artist. He's done a lot of good work for us.
He is. That first book you're saying, so in this book is the illustrations. And let me see if I can show this picture, because these pictures are, I don't know what's going on. Oh yeah, I remember this picture. Yeah, we can't. Oh, this is a nice picture. Okay. See this picture, that's an illustration, and that is in this book. But in this book, they have pictures. Oh, is that you?
Yes, it is.
You have pictures of people.
It's crazy, but like I said, I have the rights. I bought all the original illustrations, but when I signed up with a new publisher, he was like, oh, we can't complete this because you don't have the signed paperwork from this guy. I bought all the images from him, and he gave them to me, and they were afraid that the guy was going to come back if the book was popular and try to sue us. So then at the last minute, I'm scrambling and just had to do some live pictures, and I got a couple of my friends involved. They helped me out with the images, and most of those pictures are shot over a 2-day period. And I'm just so thankful. When I work with the new publisher, I'm going to put the original illustrations back in and maybe even keep some of the live action shots, mix it up. But there are a number of books coming because I haven't been doing anything. Even though people don't think I have been doing anything, I've been writing in the background. During the pandemic, I finished my penultimate Boxer Daddy book. So, yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about being this Boxer Daddy that you call yourself.
Technically, we should probably start at the beginning. So you have this boxing leatherman myself, and I joined Onyx, or joined the leather community, hoping to find others like me, and I didn't. So let's jump to 2014. and I went to compete in the American Leatherman contest. Somehow they didn't have my application, so I didn't get a chance to compete. But I had the UPS receipt saying that it had shipped out and been delivered. So they called my package, and I got to go to the contest for that weekend at free. And then a special woman who I'm gonna get there. She was like, "Oh, they're gonna make an announcement at the end of this weekend, and you should run for the new Drummer North America." And I was like, and now from my knowledge, I'm thinking, okay, I remember the original drummer, which ended up becoming International Leather, Sir. And I'm thinking, I'm not a Sir person. I'm more of a daddy. I have nurturing, caring soul. I want to teach others. I want to train others. And what better to further my kink than to teach or train people? They announced drummer, and I'm like, I don't think I'm that person. She goes, baby, go to the website. And it said, we're looking for masculine images of Leatherman into kink, pup gear, fetish, and other stuff. And I was like, what's more masculine than a boxing Leatherman? The rest is history.
If that title hadn't been around, well, they switched that title. It became the Sir Boy title. Yeah.
Yes, it did.
And so you were the first, I don't want to say the first drummer, but the first drummer back.
Yes.
The first of the new drummers. And how did that work for you?
It worked phenomenally.
Did you have to do a fantasy for that?
I did. So in the fantasy, I'm on stage, and they're announcing all of my accomplishments throughout my leather career. And my boxing title, throughout it all, I've always been lonely, wishing for someone to challenge me and win my heart. A friend of mine who was a boxer, he would come out and try to fight me, and I would knock him out. He wasn't worthy. Had another guy come out, try to fight me, knock him out. He wasn't worthy. And then my partner comes from the audience playing his violin.
Oh.
And he's playing a sonnet, and he soothes my savage heart and wins me over. We crushed it. And the judges, I was backstage at the time, but the judges, I think 2 of the 5 judges came up to my partner and says, oh my God, you guys killed it. Perfect scores. We loved it. And they said, you had a great fantasy. He goes, I didn't come up with that. My partner. So yeah, that was something absolutely different, something absolutely unique. And that's what killed it. That's what crushed it.
And so when you say you have a nurturing kind of soul, that is the daddy part of it.
Yes. Because that's the difference between a sir, a daddy, and a master. In my ideology of what these types of individuals are, a sir is the lone wolf type of individual. They do what they want to do. A master, it's all about the master. A daddy, it's all about the sub or the boy. In a sense, you're teaching, you're nurturing, you're training that sub either to be more submissive or to eventually grow up and become a daddy like yourself.
I know some people sometimes say that the sir boy dynamic is the same way. I see it both ways. I personally was thrusted into the leather daddy role. I don't think I'm very nurturing, although I think I can be. Maybe in my head, I don't think I am, but people tend to think that I am. And they come to me for advice and counsel, and I try to be there for them really because of Lady Sabrina.
Right.
On my journey, I would be remiss if I didn't try to do the same thing for someone else who was really in need or really wanted it.
Absolutely. This is how information, and we didn't even have to go back to the leather community. We go back to Africa. That's how stories were passed down from one generation to the next. That's how lessons were taught. The elders in the community passed this information on so that people would learn, and we wouldn't be doomed to repeat history. For me, because it's such a rare kink, what better way to further it than to teach it? Actually, I now have a boxing family with 5 boxer boys and a fellow dom that I am training, soon to be a secondary dom that I might be training as well.
Nice. Nice. Your garden is growing, as they would say.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it feels good being a patriarch of such a family. And I don't teach just boxing; I teach leather. I teach respect. I teach protocols. I teach procedures. Anyone under my tutelage is going to walk away knowing their stuff, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the coming days.
Oh, okay. Tell us how you really feel. How does one? That's another question I wanted to ask about leather houses or leather families. How did one come to be a part of?
Well, first of all, you have to express interest, and you are interviewed, grilled. I need to know your motivations, what's your drive, where do you tend to go with this, What is the purpose of it? I need to know how you think. I need to see if you're worthy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And if you pass that worthy test, then you get to face off against me in the ring. So I judge your skills.
Really boxing.
Oh, absolutely. If the boy or the sub can beat me, what is the purpose of me beginning to train you?
Facts. That's true. You have your Onyx necklace on?
I do, as well as my IML 29 T-shirt.
How dare you try to upstage me? No, I have to stand up for a minute. You see all of my books behind me. These are my books.
Absolutely.
Let me
Knowledge is power.
Let me put mine on too. What you're saying is that it's not just someone trying to come and take your knowledge or say, I'm being trained or I'm in Doc's house, that kind of thing. How long is the training process?
There is no set time period. For many, it's just still ongoing. As I said, some boys will want to just stay my boxer boy, and some may want to go on to further themselves. My brother, who, as I said, he's a fellow boxer. He's a master's boxer like myself. I'm training him to be a dom, training him how to read his subs and how to navigate their interactions and relationships so he can best train them and get them to evolve should they want to. But it's not as simple as you're just meeting a sub and working them over because they enjoy being worked over. You need to how to be able to read that sub. When are they hurting? When to push their limits? When to bring them back down? You need to know aftercare, how to negotiate those protocols with that sub. I also have him talk to me about what kind of scenarios he wants to create with his sub, because some subs want to do some insane things, which I'm just like, okay, you could do this part of it, but not this part.
Sometimes fantasy is things in our head is like fantastic. In my head, I can fly, right? In my head, but you just can't fly. Right. So sometimes fantasy is not going to really match your reality. You have to like kind of mold to a certain, okay.
A prime example, a lot of guys want to fight people bare knuckle. And I'm like, what on TV is not real, okay? And then I hit him with the knowledge. I was like, okay, there are 37 bones in the human hand. It only takes about 8 pounds of pressure to break any one of them. I'm not going to break my hand in your face just for 2 minutes of happiness, the glorification for your purposes. I always wear gloves, whether they're the smallest I think I've worn is 8 ounces to the heaviest I've worn is up to 20 something. Depending on the type of scenario you want to create, it depends on the kind of action you want to have. My motto is, I do not break my toys or they won't play with me anymore.
And they won't. They won't. They will not play with you. Let me ask, because we are talking about boxing, and I don't know much about boxing, but I do know that there's a weight class, right?
Yes.
So do you have that? Is that also something that you take into consideration when you take on a boy?
It used to be. I used to think about that, but no, because I train with a variety of weight classes at my gym, I can handle a variety of weight classes with my boys. In fact, 2 of my boys weigh more than I do, and I'm close to 200 pounds. 2 of them are considerably heavier than I am. They like the fact that I know what I'm doing in the ring. They've seen videos of me out there that people have seen in action, and people are like, ooh, I want that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that your weight class might be a heavyweight? Is that how that works?
Right now, I would say I'm at a cruiserweight, which is between 190 and 200.
Oh, you know, when you said cruising, I thought something else.
I have that movie, and it was very good.
I thought something else. Oh, okay, we got to talk about that.
It is light heavyweight, cruiserweight, heavyweight, a variety of ones. And several of my boys are considerably lighter. They're in the welterweight class or middleweight class. And again, some of them just like to be dominated by a bigger man, a bigger, stronger guy at times. But then again, I do try to teach them how to fight for their weight classes because, interestingly enough, as this kink has been growing and people learn who my boys, who their daddy is, they learn who I am, they want to challenge my boys to fights. I warn every boy who's with me, I said, look, because you're my boy, people want to fight you because you're under my tutelage, just so you know that. And several of them have gotten more matches, and they're growing and becoming quite worthy. So in case there's a question out there, yes, my boys do fight each other. I encourage them to work with each other, to teach each other, to train each other, especially if I'm not around, to help further not just their kink, but their experience and their knowledge of the sport.
Yeah, I hear that. That's nice. So they're learning not only just from you, but you're also teaching them to learn from each other.
Yes.
Yeah, but they do have to know how to handle themselves when you're not around.
And also,
Interesting.
when I'm not around, my brother is in charge.
Oh, okay. Two things. Now that you
Yes.
just said one, you mentioned earlier about learning the skill about flogging and these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
How to treat skin and how skin is treated. Very telling and very interested that you are saying that. I had a conversation with someone very recently, and yesterday we brought it up as well. Usually, when we do workshops, it's really not only to highlight Black and brown educators, right? Kink educators, but it's also how you work on Black and brown bodies, right? So I went to something recently and I asked the educator, how would this skill work on melanated skin? And their response was, I've never thought about that. In my head, I thought it must be really good to be white, the skin is skin kind of a thing, when skin isn't really skin. Because our skin is very different than skin, right? You can see things on other people's skin that you may not see on our skin immediately. It may take a day or two for something to show up because we're melanated. I mention that because we have to learn sometimes, because back in the day, because there were so many non-melanated people, I guess they didn't have to think about how that would affect. But if I went to scene with someone who has melanation, I have to know how the things that I like to do is going to affect their body. And that's part of that negotiation, because you may see something that happened on someone else's skin and think, oh, that's nice. And you may want that on your skin, but it's going to happen totally different. It's not going to be the same.
Very different. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're going to be on the internet trying to cancel Sir Raven, which, you know, because, you know, they love canceling you on the internet. That's one thing. And then the second thing you mentioned, since you said that your brother is in charge if you're not around, how do you work out having two daddies run a house? How did you come to that kind of conversation?
Well, again, my brother's under my training as I train him to be a fellow Dom, and all the boys recognize the hierarchy in the family. They understand this, and they know that we can't, because we're spread out across the country. One boy is in LA, one is in Delaware, another's in Virginia, one is in Chicago, and in my brother, he's in Ohio. We can only get together certain occasions, but there is a hierarchy. I'm not going to be around every moment. So in those cases, I put in parameters that when I'm not around, he's in charge, and I know he's going to take care of the family. And we all look after each other. Incidentally, my family does have a name. It's called Boxer Daddy's Tribe.
Oh.
We have a patch and everything. We're working on getting that patch made into an emblem. The family's evolving and growing, and everyone finds a good nurturing place. Everyone knows their place in it, you know.
Yeah, I know that, and we're moving into another kind of, it's still boxing, but I know most of the time, every time I think of you, so, I think of yellow. And if you don't know, those online, I'm assuming that you're flagging. If you are flagging, what is that flag?
Yellow, I am into water sports. That's another one of my kinks that I'm into. I mean, it's funny you should say that, because I just realized I had it sitting over there. There is no hanky code for boxing. However, I made my own. So as I've told people, when they don't have your hanky, make your own. And ta-da.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes.
I have it in other colors. Let me get this other one first. Da-da-da.
Oh, yes.
White with the red for coming, obviously. And then, of course, black and gold.
I see. So that's how you flag. If someone walked and they were like, what's that color mean? And why do you have boxing gloves on it? How does that conversation happen?
I usually tell them I'm into boxing if they inquire about the other color, because I get this look like, boxing? Yeah, you're going to hit me? The clutch, there's a lot of pearl clutching and the whole nine, and I'm just like, obviously I'm not for you.
They just don't know it yet, you know.
But there are some guys out there who are just like, ooh, yeah, daddy, hit me. Yeah. I'm there for them.
Right. I was going to say, yes. When your boys are out and about, they're always representing the house, right?
Yes.
Is there a way for someone that they may find or have an interest in them to come and bring them? Is there a way, do you have something in place where your boys would say, hey, if you're really interested in this, let me bring you in, and then have that conversation with you?
I have instructed my boys, if they know someone who's interested, they should reach out to me. Usually I have them ask key questions, so they're like a filter for me. And if they get past that, and they can speak to me directly, in which case I do inform them of what needs to be done. I grill them first, and then we have our encounter. I should also mention that I do have an alpha boy status in my family. So having 5 boys, it's a lot, especially having to disseminate information out to all of them. I felt it's easier if I have an alpha boy, and the alpha boy is the one I talk to primarily. He sends that information out to the other boys, and they follow instructions. He's also the third person in charge whenever we're all together at an event. The alpha boy is a position that has to be fought for. Any boy in the family can challenge for that position, and they have to fight that boy. And again, it encourages camaraderie, sportsmanship, and skills. My alpha boy has direct access to me. He gets more priority information, and he also gets to determine if someone's going to spend the night with me, who gets to spend the night, that kind of thing.
And because you said earlier about hierarchy, there is that hierarchy, right?
Yes.
So I love a hierarchy because it keeps things in order.
Yes, it does. And I'm ex-military, so I'm all about order and discipline.
Of course I do, right? Your strategy on how you think and how you run your house and those things are based in military structures.
Yes.
When you said they have to fight, I thought of Thunderdome. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. Is it really? You said fight.
Yes, it's a real fight. Yeah, it's a real fight. Standard boxing rules, 3-minute rounds, so they can wear 10 to 12-ounce gloves. And they fight to knockout or until one of them gives up. And it helps to encourage them. I said, if you want this position, you need to show that you are worthy of being the alpha boy.
Is that something that, and I'm just asking, is it something that you are aware that somebody is like training to become the alpha boy or to challenge?
Oh, absolutely. And whoever's running for alpha boy, whoever wants to challenge has to come through me first. I let my alpha boy know, hey, your brother wants to challenge you for the slot. So you need to start getting in shape and getting ready.
And then if they don't win, everybody's still gravy. Everything is still no harm, no foul. That's really interesting because I think that sometimes people want to join houses and those kinds of things. When I ask, well, how was your house set up? I get a lot of different answers.
No, I thought this one through, and I felt that my rules were the best way to encourage my boys and fellow doms to further not just their kink, but their sport. If you've improved your sport, if you're really good at your sport, then you can play in your kink properly.
It's just like learning how to throw a flogger, how to throw a whip. It's the same kind of skill set.
Absolutely. And a lot of our play is the same too. Sometimes I have a boy who just wants to get worked over, and in those situations, sometimes I might tie him up, or if he wants to try to fight back, I'll push his limits to see how much he can take to that point where he's groggy. And then I back off, I let him recover, and then I push him further. And a lot of times they enjoy it. They're just, I've never had this much fun. Usually guys just want to come in and beat the crap out of me. No one takes their time to let me enjoy it. I'm like, what's the point of 2 to 3 minutes of fun where you can prolong this out, where you can push a person's limit, and then they learn that they're getting stronger over time, that they can take more, and then they can further their kink by having more intense sessions or maybe easier going sessions or something like that. But again, they can further the kink overall and have a better experience going forward for themselves and the people that they choose to deal with.
I see. Nice. Do you accept female bodies into your house? Have you ever thought of
So one of my boys is trans.
Okay.
So I have boxed women in my gym. There's one girl in particular, I used to box her. I hit her a little hard. She goes, don't hit me so hard. I'm a girl. I said, when you stop hitting me like a man, maybe I'll lighten up. This girl, she was pretty strong and she could fight. Naturally, I wasn't using full power on her, just enough to get her attention. That's a decision I think I would have to consult my family on and see where the next steps. I hadn't thought about that, only because I don't know any women specifically who are into that kink. In all the years, and we're talking close to 30 years that I've been in, I have not run into any women who are into that particular kink and would like to know. I have run into some women who wanted to know how to box, but they never wanted to explore the kinky side of it. Defending yourself is a great tool. I can train anybody, but you have to listen and be motivated to follow my instructions, because I will make you a hellified fighter.
Is there any kind of advice that you would give someone new to leather, new to kink? Any sage wisdom? You've said a lot during this time, but is there anything else that you might want to impart on the next generation?
Find out what works for you. don't do something just because someone else is doing it. If something in particular drives you, do that. Don't just do it because someone else is doing it. If you're doing something that someone else is doing, there's a possibility you may end up liking it, but if you don't, you're going to end up resenting it. Don't just do it because everyone else is doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to stand out that way. You're just going to blend into the crowd. And who wants to blend into a crowd when you can stand out?
This is very true. And boxing is something that definitely you will stand out. If you're,
Absolutely.
If you have a boxer daddy, you're going to stand out. Because people will be like, well, what the hell is a boxer daddy? I was interested in the daddy part. Like I said earlier, I know that you're a daddy, but I didn't know how that showed up in your life and like with your family.
It also shows up in the gym too, where I find myself coaching a lot of younger guys at the gym. So quick funny story, there's this English guy. He's 6'2", 250, and he just turned 36, and he's literally in part of his statement the other day. But he wants to become a master's boxer, and that's master's boxing is amateur boxing for guys over 40. The other day, he says, and this is after we had done a couple of rounds, he goes, I woke up the other day and I turned 36 and I just felt old. To which me and my friend Ron, who's a coach at the gym, looked at each other like, this motherfucker did not just say old. And I said, James, I just want you to know, number one, don't ever say anything like that again. I said, number two, you're old enough to be my son. He goes, what? I said, I'm 56 and I'm always kicking his butt in the ring. And he just looked at me like, what? I said, don't give me that mess about you're old at 36. At 36, I was doing 12, 15 rounds with my buddies. I've since slowed down a little bit. I'm only doing 8 or 9, but still, he can barely get through 2.5 with me.
8 or 9 is slowing down.
For me, yes. For me.
I don't box, so 8 or 9 is, oh my God.
Not for everybody.
Yeah, I understand that. Boxing isn't for everybody. Is there some place somebody can go to see you to do some boxing?
I live in New York. I'm in the burbs in New York. I'm in Yonkers for the old people. But I train at a gym at a New Rochelle, and you can see me spar there Saturday mornings. If we're Facebook friends, you can find me on Facebook under Doc Hoskins, and I have some of my videos that I load into the video section so people can see me in action, and as well as I think my book website is there, and you can see some of the sessions I've done with people. And so you just reach out through you or hit me up on IG under Boxer Daddy 68. I'm always willing to talk and tell you more about boxing as well as my kink.
When you started, there was no one, and now there's you and your family, your tribe.
There's a lot of guys out there. Matter of fact, if I was living in Europe, I think I'd be a few $1,000s richer. There's a lot of guys over in Europe and around the world. The kink is growing as more people become comfortable with it. Time will tell if they're looking to reach out and be a little more serious about it. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of fakes out there, but there are some people who are true to it and want to get into it and learn more about it.
When you say fake, you mean fake boxing?
Yes, there are a number of people out there who like to buy the gloves and buy the gear and pose in it and pretend that they are an actual fighter when they're not.
I'm like, how you
a lot of pretenders.
Yeah.
Those individuals upset me the most because I'm like, you're pretending to be a fighter and you're ruining it for someone who legitimately wants to get into this by pretending to be something that you're not. And you're ruining it for this person. What'll happen is somebody might meet that fake person, they try to meet up, they get stood up, and they find out the person wasn't really into it, and then that person gets dissuaded. It was like, this is the kind of person I'm going to run into, then I'm not going to be bothered with it, and they'll walk away.
This has been very exciting. I really appreciate that you come on and have this conversation with me and let people know what a Boxer Daddy is, what they do, what they're about, how you flag. It's interesting. I don't see a lot of, we were talking about flagging the other day, and someone said that they usually cruise and like flag online.
How does that work?
I said the same thing. I was like, how does that work? I think what I may want to do is, and I'm not sure how I could do this, is have a class or a conversation about cruising. I don't think that people cruise anymore. And I did it to somebody the other day, and they were like, why are you looking at me like that? I'm like, I'm just looking at you. And I'm like, because I'm doing the thing. But they don't understand that cruising, I think because a lot of people are used to being online, that they lose the skill of having a conversation. They may lose
social skills are lacking, yes.
Yeah, of having the conversation, or even having someone look at you. So actually, someone was cruising me in that workshop last night, and I was cruising back, but we just fuck with each other all the time. But I think people lose that because they're online. So when I say, how do you flag online? So you have your little thing that says you're into this thing, and that's fine. But then what happens?
Right.
Like I said, when you showed your flag, I was like, someone will say, hey, what's that about? And then that starts the conversation that may lead to something wonderful. I don't think that really happens much anymore. It's a lost art. Anyway, I'll leave.
Hopefully, I'm everly optimistic. I think it will come back. Honestly, I feel certain parts of leather needs to go back underground so that it can be cherished and respected a lot more than what it is today.
Do you have a definition of what leather is to you?
It is so many things. It's an overgeneralized term that I think is overused in the expression of a person's kink or interest and lifestyle, the way of living. I do prefer more definitive answers. When I'm dealing with something, I don't beat around the bush. I say, look, this is what I'm into. I'm into this. I'm into this. But I am part of the leather community, the greater community that encompasses kink, fetish, play, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. And that so forth also means like the hierarchy, the protocol, and those kinds of things, because we don't want to forget this has its roots in the military. So, of course,
yes,
we have those kinds of things.
Yeah, the World War II veterans came back. They used their military structure to help develop and build the existing leather community at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But everything is constantly evolving from there.
Mm-hmm.
Some change is good, but not all change.
That's true. That is true. I know I said this was going to be the last thing, but then also, I do this a lot. Then you have that, I was saying to someone, because they were like, oh, we're new guard and y'all are old guard. And I was like, sweetie, guard is just guard. You know what I'm saying? And those who were doing a thing, they did not call themselves old guard. They were just living their life. The same way you're living your life, right? And 30 years from now, people are going to be looking back at you saying, oh, you're old guard. And you're going to be like, what? No, I'm not. I'm just living my life.
Right.
So that whole old guard, new guard thing is interesting.
You should bring me back, because I had an interesting conversation with a gentleman who's been in Onyx almost as long as I have, and he said that we're the new guard, and I looked at him like, what do you mean by that? Because at a point, people of color were just objectified something different, or a fetish or a kink. He says, so technically, we're the new guard at this time. I'm just like,
this is
okay. I could see that, but I think that's a topic for another time. I hope your audience will be interested in that. And I'd love to speak more about that in general, because there are many facets to that. And hopefully it'll help a lot of the newer generation understand what we mean by that and where things are hopefully going in the future.
I need to have you and this person come on, or maybe we can have a Zoom conversation and invite people to sit down and listen, because I am a firm believer in sitting at the feet of elders or people who have been there before me, and to be quiet. I usually try to tell people, stop talking. I know you're young and you have so many ideas, and I get it. But sometimes you just got to stop talking. More just from listening than you will from talking.
Absolutely. I will tell you about my friend offline, and we'll set that up. I hope your audience will be interested in that. I think it's a conversation that definitely needs to be had.
Especially in 2025. But anyway, thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. I've learned so much more about you. If folks want to know more about you, you're on FetLife, you're here on IG. Like, hit you up and be respectful. Be respectful. I know I'm not on certain apps or whatever, but people like to send certain pictures. No pictures. Please just have a conversation. If you have a question, ask the question. No one is asking you to be disrespectful, because that won't get you anywhere. But anyway, until we meet again, I really appreciate it. I hope everyone enjoyed this conversation with my big brother, Doc, founding father of Onyx, New York Northeast. Reach out to him and pick his brain, because he has a lot of information that we don't want to lose. This month, I'm having a leather dinner. It's by invite only. I'm bringing some young folks to talk with some older folks, and we have dinner. It's going to be a nice little look. I'll keep you in mind. All right. Since you're in Yonkers, I'm in the Bronx, and we're not far from each other.
We're close, 10 minutes away.
This is very true. But until we meet again, thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. I hope folks got some really great information out of this, and go and reach out to Doc and and get beat up on in a good way. Anyway, have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Take it easy.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.